In the quiet, orderly town of East Providence, Rhode Island, a state trooper named Charlie Belay Gates is slowly being erased, not by force, but by a suffocating politeness, a pathological need to conform that is literally splitting his mind in two. Me, Myself, and Irene presents this not as a superhero origin, but as a psychological breakdown born from the unbearable weight of being nice. Released in 2000, the film arrived at a curious juncture for its star, Jim Carrey, and its directors, Peter and Bobby Farrelly. Carrey was transitioning from the pure elastic mania of Ace Ventura and The Mask toward more nuanced, often darker roles like in The Truman Show and Man on the Moon. The Farrellys, fresh from the massive success of There's Something About Mary, were proving their brand of comedy could carry a narrative heart beneath its shock value surface. Irene sits squarely in this pivot, a film that uses the framework of a buddy cop road trip to conduct a messy, hilarious, and unexpectedly raw autopsy of a fractured personality. The film's development is a story of tonal negotiation. The original script by Farrelly Brothers collaborator Mike Cerrone was reportedly darker and more violent. The directors, alongside Carrey, worked to balance the inherent darkness of dissociative identity disorder, then commonly called split personality, with their signature comedic sensibility. This tension is palpable in every frame. The film's comedy often springs directly from Charlie's profound pain, making the laughs feel uneasy. Complicit even. This tonal tightrope is walked through Carrey's dual performance. As Charlie, his physicality is constrained, shoulders hunched, smile strained, a man playing a role he can no longer sustain. As Hank, the performance explodes outward. But Hank isn't merely crazy Jim Carrey. He's a specific ID, vulgar, aggressive, and brutally honest, but also strangely protective. He is the release valve for every insult Charlie swallowed, every injustice he politely accepted. Carrey doesn't play them as two people, but as two desperate, incomplete halves of one crumbling whole. The film's visual language subtly reinforces this divide. Cinematographer Mark Irwin often frames Charlie in wide shots of his pristine, oppressive suburban neighborhood, emphasizing his smallness within a rigid system. When Hank emerges, the camera pushes in, the world becomes a series of aggressive close-ups and canted angles. The color palette shifts from Charlie's muted blues and beiges to Hank's sharper contrasts. It's a psychological state rendered as cinematic grammar. At its core, Me, Myself, and Irene is less about a disorder and more about the cause of the fracture, repression. Charlie isn't split by trauma in the classic sense, but by a lifetime of enforced civility. His wife's very public infidelity and abandonment is the catalyst, but the fuel is the social contract that forbade him from expressing rage, grief, or even basic indignation. Hank isn't the problem. He's the symptom of a problem. He's the symptom of a problem named normalcy. This theme extends to the film's central relationship with Irene, played with grounded resilience by Renee Zellweger. Irene is not a manic pixie dream girl who fixes him. She is, in many ways, just as trapped by a corrupt ex-boyfriend, by a life on the run. Her function is not to choose between Charlie and Hank, but to witness both. In her presence, the two personas begin haltingly to communicate. The road trip becomes a forced integration therapy. The infamous cow scene is often cited for its shock value, but within this framework, it operates as a crucial metaphor. Hank's absurd, violent confrontation with the animal is the ID's unfiltered response to a world perceived as hostile and ridiculous. It's the ultimate rejection of Charlie's passive, turn-the-other-cheek philosophy. The comedy is derived from the sheer, unacceptable truth of his anger being acted upon. Even the subplot with Charlie's genius sons, a classic Farrelly absurdity, feeds the theme. Their hyper-intelligence and lack of social grace represent another form of societal misfitting. They accept both Charlie and Hank without judgment, creating the only space where the divided self is not a crisis, but simply a fact of their father's existence. Their home is a chaotic sanctuary from the world's demand for a singular, coherent identity. The film's resolution is telling. Charlie does not vanquish Hank. There is no magical cure. Instead, through the crisis with Irene, a negotiation is reached. The final shot of Charlie Hank smiling with Irene and his sons suggests a fragile, hard-won integration. The polite trooper and the aggressive-eyed have not merged into one bland personality. They have formed a truce. The smile is new. It holds Charlie's warmth and Hank's confidence. This conclusion refuses the tidy moral of most comedies. It argues that the self is not a fixed point, but a contested territory. Mental health, the film slyly proposes, might not be about silencing the uncomfortable parts of ourselves, but about finding a way to let them speak without letting them destroy us. It's a remarkably mature idea buried under layers of profane, milk-spewing humor. Viewed today, Me, Myself, and Irene stands as a fascinating artifact. It captures Jim Carrey at the peak of his powers, stretching his iconic elasticity into the realm of psychological portraiture. It showcases the Farrelly brothers at their most ambitious, using the vehicle of a studio comedy to ask uncomfortable questions about how society shapes and sometimes shatters the individual. The film's legacy is complex, often overshadowed by its more outrageous moments, but to dismiss it as mere gross-out comedy is to miss its poignant core. In Charlie and Hank, we see the extreme ends of a universal struggle, the conflict between the person we are expected to be and the person we sometimes fear we are. Me, Myself, and Irene suggest that perhaps sanity lies not in choosing one, but in daring to acknowledge both. It is a film about the violence of politeness and the peace that can sometimes be found in honest chaos. In the end, Charlie Bay Gates isn't cured. He is simply, finally, allowed to be incomplete. Thank you for watching until the end. We pour our passion into every single video essay, exploring the stories behind the movies we all love. If you stumbled upon this video by chance, there is a very high probability you might never see our channel again in your feed. So please take a moment to hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and ring the bell. We are actively growing this community of cinema lovers, and your support is what helps us make our content better and more insightful every single day. Let's explore the magic of filmmaking together. See you in the next one.